Welcome to the Minnesota Rovers Tuesday evening presentation. Minnesota Rovers is an outdoors club based in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Our members organize trips that range from 1 hour to 2 weeks in Minnesota or further afield. Examples of our activities include hiking, biking, backpacking, skiing, snowshoeing, paddling, and rock climbing. We also organize conservation and trail clearing trips. Our members have experience and skills in many outdoor activities, so if you want to learn a new outdoor activity, we can probably help you. For more information, go to mnrovers.org. Now let's move on to this week's presentation.
Tonight, you're here to hear from Alan Wenker about his NOLS Alaskan sea kayaking trip. Alan describes himself as just another aging boomer. Alan enjoys backpacking, hiking, canoeing, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, winter camping, and bicycle touring. So you should come back next week. He was a 1993 NOLS mountaineering graduate, and in 2022, he skied hut to hut in Sweden, north of the Arctic Circle. This kayak trip was a way to reconnect with NOLS and participate in a kayak adventure. So please welcome Alan Wenker.
Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I'm Alan Wenker. I live in White Bear Township. I'm 60, just another aging boomer. Truth hurts, but it's an accurate description. So when I was in junior high, I read this book, Wilderness Handbook by Paul Petzold. He's the one who started NOLS, a very world famous, world caliber mountaineer back in his era. And I think it was like 1965 he started the school. He has a quite a life story, so you could spend hours talking just about that, but I won't. But in any event, I read the book and I like dying to go to a NOLS course. I want to go to a NOLS course. I want to go mountaineering. Problem is, at that time, all their courses were 30 days and they were expensive. And so when you're a student, you have time, but you have no money. After you're making money, you get 2 weeks of vacation. So, it's like it just doesn't work out. 1990, those two things connected. I was able to get time off from the job. I had the cash, and they had started at that point 17-day courses. So that's what mine was. It wasn't a full month long. They had gone to something called 25 and older courses, and I was able to do that. So the minimum age was higher and is really geared toward working people. They have a slightly different version of the same thing now. What is a different name? In a house move, I lost all my NOLS photos. I'm the guy in the red jacket there. So from that trip, I have this photo and that photo that my tent mate Fred sent me. And I don't know where all the rest of them are. Fred was a wonderful guy. He is from Detroit. He's a lifelong bachelor, and so he didn't have any family commitments. He could just sort of do whatever he wanted to. And his dream was to climb Denali. So he had taken this NOLS mountaineering course. He had taken a NOLS winter course to get used to cold weather camping. Took a guided trip. He's on one of the summits in Mexico here, trying to get some higher altitude experience. And then, by God, Fred made it. Not only did he make the summit of Denali, he got on the cover of Rock and Ice magazine. So, Fred, if you see this video, you're the man. Oh, and I contacted the alumni office before I did this, and I asked them if there was something I should say about NOLS, and they gave me this little blurb, so I'll read that. But they say NOLS is the premier wilderness skills school, taking people of all ages as young as 14 on expeditions ranging from 1 week to 135 days. We operate in 14 locations, both domestically and internationally, in addition to skills such as backpacking, mountaineering, rock climbing, sea kayaking, and sailing. We also offer wilderness medicine certification classes in first aid, first responder, and wilderness EMT in hundreds of host locations. So that's kind of NOLS in a nutshell. And I always kind of wanted to go back. I knew I'd never get on another multi-week trip, but along the way they came up with these alumni classes, courses that are, about a week long, and they've got them all over the world. You can go sea kayaking in Mexico in the winter. Just saying. So anyway, I decided to go. Sun Country Airlines has a nonstop to Anchorage in the summer, which was great. Best value in alcohol is the drink in the hotel or in the airport bar when you're normally working. So here we are. We're getting close to Anchorage. I can't remember if those are either the Chugach Mountains or the Talkeetnas. But the course started Monday morning. I flew out Friday night, and then I'd have the weekend to just go see Anchorage because I've never been there before. And the Anchorage airport, they really got this kind of northern, fast there on the bear, northern exposure kind of vibe. You see bush planes everywhere you go. Kids can learn to fly a bush plane before they can drive a car. So it's like, here kids drive tractors, they fly bush planes. And then things to do in Anchorage. If you're ever there, the Anchorage Museum is outstanding. I spent quite a bit of time there. It was vastly better than I would have imagined. I'd go back there again in a heartbeat. This was a movie a guy did. He photographs the Northern Lights, and he's done it for decades, and he's cobbled them, just still photos into a movie-length presentation, and it shows at some theater regularly. It was really quite good. Took a trolley tour around the area, and the tour guide gave us, it's her just a history of Anchorage. Talked a lot about the effects of the earthquake and back whenever 100 years ago, whenever that was, and it explains why a lot of the city is the way it is today. It's all post-earthquake construction. So Monday morning, they pick you up at the train station in Anchorage. It's kind of a central point in town and easy to get to. And their base is in Palmer, Alaska, which is north of Anchorage. So you get hauled up there, you get all your gear, you could, if you had like no gear at all, they could pretty much outfit you end to end. So they've got everything you need. But you load up your kayaks, you pile everybody in a van. Because it's an alumni trip and it's shorter, there's some parts of their normal curriculum that they skip. They had all the food pre-packaged on a normal course. You do that yourself to learn how to do it. They're just trying to save time. So all of those things were ready to go. But you got, you had to get fitted for like your dry suit, and they have these big rubber muck boots that you got, and whatever else you happen to need. It's a good gig to be the base dog. They had quite a few of them around. It's not a bad life. So we got dropped off. So we're Anchorage to Palmer. Then we drove back down to Whittier, which takes you back through Anchorage. And you end up at the edge of Prince William Sound. They have these boats called water taxis, and I've never been on like a bush plane sort of trip where you get dropped off and picked up somewhere. So this was new to me, but there are racks that fold up, and you just stack all the kayaks in there and all your gear and jump in and go. And then they just bring you wherever you tell them to and drop you off on shore. So you take off and you leave the world behind. And here, here we are where we're camping the first night. Just unloading all our gear. So this was just something that, is quite a bit different for me. As I said, I've not ever done something like that before. Let's see. Yeah, so here are tents the first night. If you notice that line of seaweed, our tents are on the other side of the seaweed, and the point is that they have tides there, and this is another thing that was new to me. I had no idea, but you look for the line of seaweed and you camp on the other side of it because water is going to be up to that edge at high tide. So whatever you did on this trip, you're constantly evaluating campsites, and eventually when the boat picked us up is all about where's the water going to be at high tide versus low tide. So this is an example of it. So this is low tide, and you could walk out to the moss covered rocks, and then at high tide you cannot. So I was just kind of fascinated by that. That's certainly a new thing to me. And this is just setting up camp. The big, massive MSR tarp is a godsend because it would zip shut. It was just basically an A-frame tarp that zipped shut on both ends. But Prince William Sound is in a temperate rainforest, and the optimal word in that phrase is rain, because it rained a lot most of the time, actually. So all of us could fit underneath there, and we could eat and we could cook and we could stay dry during meals. It would have been pretty miserable without that, quite frankly. And so up till now, that was all that first day. It was, going to Palmer, getting our stuff, loading the boat, getting dropped off, setting up camp. And so that took up the first day. So then the next day we're actually getting, starting to kayak. We didn't travel the first day. We just did some intro kind of stuff, learning how to pack them, how to get in, how to get out. So this was part of the first lesson. And then everybody got to experience a wet exit in case you flipped over. So you got to hop in the boat and then over you go. So this was also a new experience for me. I've only kayaked twice, just two, day trips. That's been it. And it was always a nice sunny weather, and I didn't have to pop out of a kayak, but it's pretty interesting experience. You have that spray skirt on around you that's really tightly holds you in place, and there's a grab loop on it. I was, like, man, is my leg gonna get caught when we turn over? I was a little scared. You pop that grab loop and gravity does everything for you. You are like, you don't have to worry about it. You're out and you're wet. Then, later in the day, we had some downtime. People did a little fishing. And this is Diane. She caught, you can see the fish on the bottom there. She was very proud of this. She had never caught a fish before. After the course was over, get this email. Hey, did anybody get a picture of me with the fish? Nobody believes I actually caught one. It's like, yeah, she did. This was dinner. Dinners were all communal. Steve was lead instructor on the trip. He's a guy in blue. Good guy, other than he's from Green Bay and a Packers fan. Allie on the left. She actually worked for NOLS in Alaska, like in operations. She wasn't a field instructor, but she had time, and they're like, hey, why don't you just come with us? So not a bad little job perk to go kayaking. The food was delicious. This is me in my windbreaker. Larry, one of the instructors, was fascinated by all the patches I sew on. I sew them on everything. I packs, my big duffel for when I go on a hulk trip in the winter. He's like, thought that was really cool. I'm not sure why, but then, the rest of it, some of these aren't necessarily in chronological order, because, it's a lot of sort of the same thing. You're kayaking amidst the sound. The water had that beautiful green color to it, unlike anything you would see around here. And it was such an interesting experience because at like water level, it's not that much different than being in the boundary waters, other than the expanses of water are quite large. But then you look up and there's mountains in the background, and there's animals you don't ever see. They've like seals popping up looking at you, and otters and salmon are jumping out of the water. So it's like this world, you know that people have been there before, but there's no sign anyone's ever been there before. I don't know that I've ever actually physically been anywhere like that. More kayaking. You can see Steve in the blue jacket there. And in the very front to the right is another instructor named Marco. And then Larry was a third instructor behind us. And the way they would do it is you'd have your group of student kayakers, and then you'd have someone in the front, someone in the back, and someone on the side. So if anybody got in trouble, one of them could get to you really, really quick. NOLS is very safety conscious. Another thing you had to do was you had this ditch bag that at night you'd have to have your rain gear in, a water bottle, a snack, bear spray. They had a little tag that you're supposed to pack, and the reason is you're in an earthquake zone. And so if an earthquake happens, all the water is going to drain out and a big tsunami is going to come back. So if that were to have happened, you'd basically grab your ditch bag and haul ass, up into shore as fast as you could. So that was another new life experience for me. Here we're out paddling again. You can see the raindrops on the water. It doesn't rain hard like it can do here. It's just this sort of steady light rain that after a while you just get kind of wet. Christopher, one of the students from Austin, Texas, he was very into having hot sauce along, as was Larry, one of the instructors, does a lot of trips down in the Rio Grande area, and they were constantly comparing notes on different hot sauces. Larry would go so far as he'd call them sriracha shots. He'd pour a little scoop onto his hand and then just lick it down. Sounds weird, but actually, if you're cold, it's amazingly effective. Here's kind of the inside of the big fly, mealtime. You can see the big, almost knee-high rubber boots are a godsend. You could get by without them, but these kept your feet dry and consequently warm. It would have been sort of miserable without that. Here we're unloading kayaks at the end of the day. It's a lot of more of the same. We traveled, just kind of traveled up the shoreline, and then we had to do a couple of open water crossings, which one of them was quite wavy. I was happy it wasn't any worse than what it actually was.
Did you have a base? Can I ask?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Did you have a base camp that you went out?
No, we just kept traveling. So you'd pack up all your crap in the morning and then head further inland and then.
So repeat the question, so there's.
Oh, okay. The question was, do we have a base camp? No, we traveled each day further. I don't know what direction it was, to be honest with you, but further up the coastline. And we had to do a couple open water crossings to get to the other side of the coast. And but other than like that first day and the last day, we were moving every day in between. Yep. So the high point, I'll get to those in just a minute here. Oh, sorry. Yes, the question was those ice things, are they little icebergs? And yes, you'll see more of those in just a minute. So we were camped. It's hard to see, but there's a black bear down at the base of the waterfalls. And we were about 100 yards to the left camping of the bear. And just a second before I took that picture, there was another black bear who had literally just plunked his head in the water, pulled out a salmon, and then went off into the woods and ate it. This whole thing is like being in your own National Geographic video, where like, I've seen that in a movie before, but I've never seen it in real life. And I've never camped 100 yards where there were a couple of bears just hanging out with nothing to do but eat. Icebergs, yeah. This was the culmination of the trip. The destination that we had was to camp in this bay, and you can see the glacier coming off on the left. So the icebergs you asked about, during the night they would break off, and in the morning there would be lots of them floating around in the bay. There used to be another glacier on the right that came down on the other side, but that has since melted away. But this one's still pretty active. During the night, it sounded like it was thundering out. It's like, oh, no, it's just chunks of the glacier breaking off into the water. So this is us paddling up to the glacier, some cascading waterfalls along the way. As you get closer, there's more, chunks of ice. Unfortunately, you can't see this very well, but this was basically a cliff. And if you can blow it up really big, there were just countless birds nesting in this cliff. There's a number of them over on the left side, but you really got to blow it up big to see them. I've never seen anything quite like that before. So let's see. This is getting out of our kayaks at the end of that day. We ended up spending 2 nights in this bay. The second to the last day, it was pretty windy, and we were supposed to paddle to where we we're going to meet the boat, and they deemed it to be windy enough that if instead of paddling in the high wind and waves, we just get up really early the next morning because it wasn't that far to go. And so that's what we ended up doing. So we had a down day to just kill. Yeah, so glacier. Yeah, you know, and like any other iceberg, you know, what you see above the water is significantly smaller than what's under the water. So you did have to be careful of don't get too close and hang your kayak up on a chunk of ice and have some issues. Leave with some nice us getting out of our boats. This became a backdrop for a lot of people to get their picture taken. That was Valerie. Duncan, he was my tent mate. Really good guy. I had brought earplugs along because apparently I snore. And I offered them to him. He said he didn't need them. So maybe my snoring's been overblown.
Question here.
Yeah.
What was the air temperature generally?
You know, I'm not. Yeah. What was the air temperature? Yeah, it's a good question. Might have been in the 50s. You know, they had a packing list of, you know, things, and I followed it, you know, religiously, because I didn't want to bring too much stuff. And at one point or another, I had worn every layer I brought. So, you know, the stuff they had recommended was spot on.
What month?
This was August. They do several of these in the so what month? Yeah. So it was August. They do several of these in the summertime in the same area. Someone told me the weather before was really good. I don't know that I believe that. But in any event, yeah, you know.
There had to be some currents happening because the tides were going in and out. Did you utilize those at all to your advantage?
Did we utilize currents? No, not really, or at least not that I noticed. The currents were, what I noticed more than anything was just the waves. You know, the one day in particular where, you know, I was like really happy I wasn't in a canoe. And you know, the kayaks are amazingly stable to paddle. So, you know, you have more stability than you think you might, but it was still pretty rocky the one day. So on the left is Shauna. She actually retired from NOLS over the summer. She worked in the Lander, Wyoming branch, which is their world headquarters. And on the right is her daughter, Lee. So this was like her retirement present to herself, was to go kayaking up here. This is me and my paddling partner, Pat. So for people who are coming from all around the country, Pat lives about 2 miles from me in Matamita. I had never met her before. Pat is, no, I had not, I did not know her at all. I just went by myself, you know. She's 84 years old. She is a paddling mofo. I am not kidding. I mean, she's kayaked all over the world. She has sailed for 20 years. She had sailed a sailboat way back when up into this area, but we would be paddling and she'd just keep going and like, Pat, we can't, you know, the Marco's up in front. You can't pass Marco. I want to go. So I'm like not paddling, so we slow down and everybody's laughing at me and I'm like, I'm not going to paddle backwards to slow down. But you know, can't pass Marco. So she was amazing. Really, just absolutely loved her. This is Larry. He's swapped out sriracha for a whipped cream shot. He's a wonderful guy. He's a bit of a philosopher, very well read. He'd kind of offer a morning meditation each day. The reason we have the whipped cream is Marco, one of the instructors, it was his birthday and they made him a cake. And on that down day where it was kind of windy, Larry did a presentation on salmon, just something to do. He is very incredibly knowledgeable and just a fascinating topic. I mean, salmon are a really, really interesting fish. It was like, wow, I could have listened to him forever. Little charcuterie board before dinner. You can see the different hot sauce options there. Oops, not Larry again. Yeah, that's the chart of where we were, which unfortunately the picture didn't turn out very well. It's the sheer size of this wilderness area is amazing. And then you look at it and it's one little dot in Alaska. It's really hard to comprehend how big that state is until you've been there. And this, you know, literally all new to me.
Were you at the south end of that? Or were you...
Yeah. So we came in, the town of Whittier is where we put in. So that is kind of the south end, I believe. We're kind of paddling north, and then we did the open water crossing to get into the area where the bay was that had the glacier. This is the last morning where we had gotten up super early, paddled down the shore. Then the water taxi's coming back. And again, it's timing on the high tide, low tide business. So we had to make sure this area was going to be deep enough at high tide that the boat could get in. Otherwise, we would have had to paddle to what would have been plan B. They had a backup site to meet at. And they've got all the radios and whatnot to communicate, but so, you know, there they are backing in. You drop the tailgate and then you just load up all the stuff. And then they take off. They bring you fresh bagels and coffee, which was really, really good. You know, and the coffee is nice and hot and tasted wonderfully. You get back to Whittier and it's the same process in reverse as that first day. You load all your stuff up. You drive up to Palmer, you know, shower, change, turn in all the gear you rented and stuff. And then they drove us back to Anchorage, and I flew out the next day. Some people had like a midnight flight, like, whoa. And you know, once you're in the van, it's nice and warm. This is what you end up doing. So that's it for my slides. Happy to take any questions or yes.
I missed how many days you were out there.
It was how many days? It was a full week. Yeah.
It's been like 35 years since the Exxon Valdez oil spill. Was that ever brought up by NOLS or the remnants or any comments from them?
I don't recall the Valdez spill. Sorry, I'm trying to remember to repeat stuff for Zoom. I don't recall a general statement about it. Some other people may have had conversations on that topic. But all these years later, you would have never have known that, you know, which is, you know, Mother Nature is amazing at healing itself, even after people really do stupid shit. Yeah.
You had single and tandem kayaks. How long were the tandems?
How long were the tandem kayaks? They had to be, at least as long as an 18-foot canoe. They were quite large. The students had tandems and the instructors had solo. So it was, you know, keep us kind of bunched together and give them flexibility to zip back and forth as needed.
So were most of the students on this trip, have they had any previous kayaking experience or?
Had anyone had kayaking experience? Not much. My tent mate Duncan did. Not this style. He does a lot of river kayaking. No, not really. I don't think anybody. I may have had as much as anyone, which is very little.
Except for Pat.
Yeah. Well, Pat's in a different world. We could all age that well.
Other than the dunking, I mean, how did they prepare you for your paddling?
How did they prepare us? Basically, you know, jump in and they gave us some pointers on how to paddle, you know, just sort of efficient paddle strokes and we had that first day where we dunked, you know, we took some time and just kind of paddled around it, just to get the feel for it. And then, you know, after that, it's just trial by fire. Alumni, I should add, I meant to say this earlier. So, you know, NOLS bread and butter course are these 30-day trips that they've had forever, and they've got longer ones and shorter ones. In terms of an alumni trip, it's basically anybody that is anywhere affiliated with NOLS, and they're just trying to broaden out their base, you know. So like if you take a 1-day wilderness medicine course, they would consider you an alumni and you could go. In fact, this spring I'm taking the 2-day course at REI that it's run through NOLS medicine thing. Number of years ago, they bought the Wilderness Medicine Institute and integrated that into their curriculum. So they're doing you know, just wilderness medical training all over the world. So and on alumni trips, you could also be like an alumnus friend. So like one of you could go with me and we could go on a trip if you don't have any NOLS experience. And again, they're just trying to broaden out their network, which, you know, makes a good deal of sense. But you don't have to have any technical kayaking experience for this. If you took an alumni course that was maybe more technical mountaineering, I'm sure they would scrutinize that because it's considerably more dangerous, but not for this. Somebody over here at a question. Yes.
Just a comment. NOLS partners with a lot of other organizations. And so they partner, for example, with Leave No Trace. I did a 5-day NOLS trip to become a Leave No Trace Master Educator. Last May, and they do those trips in a variety of environments.
Yeah, and if you took a Leave No Trace, you'd be considered an alumni and you can go kayaking with them. Yeah.
How many hours a day were you on water?
Yeah. How many hours a day? I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. It wasn't that long. I thought it would be. I was anticipating it being harder than it was, and it wasn't bad. So kind of anybody could do it really, you know. It's, if you're 84 and in halfway decent shape, let her rip. I think,
I mean, 4 to 5 hours in the car, but how many miles average?
oh, how many miles average? I really have no idea. I couldn't even begin to guess. Probably more than I realized because you can paddle pretty fast, and I'm trying to slow Pat down. We'd still be up there.
Your guides seem to be more concerned about tsunamis and grizzly bears, and that would not necessarily be my priority.
Well, no,
So I'm wondering, do you have any type of bear protection?
oh, without a doubt, yeah, bear protection. Yes, everybody had a can of bear spray. We were very happy we didn't see any grizzly bears. Before we left on the trip, they brought us out with these tester bear spray cans to practice. So in addition to tsunamis, they do worry about bears. In fact, one of those black bears, one of the like in the evening, just started rumbling on toward toward our camp. And we're like, one of the instructors kind of shooed him away, and that was it. There was this whole protocol about going to the bathroom. You're supposed to go in groups and go into the woods, and you're supposed to make a lot of noise, and it's like, okay, people sort of abandon the group thing pretty quickly. And you'd be making noise. Well, that's all good and fine during the day, but like, hey, if you had to get up in the middle of the night, I'm like, I don't want to be singing and waking everybody up, so I have my headlamp on, all right, and dive back into the tent as fast as I can, and hope everything goes okay. Okay.
Did you have a chance to like wander back off from the shore, or you were either in the boat or on shore in camp, like there was no wandering?
Was there any wandering? No. No, wandering into that bush, there's really nowhere to go because you are, it is thick forest, like, there aren't any trails. You would have been hacking your way through brush and swampy terrain. There's nowhere you can wander that you want to.
So I've been on a bunch of raft trips,
Mhm.
and we call our poop out,
Mhm.
pee in the river, but you call poop out. So what do they have to do?
We buried it.
You
We
buried
buried
it?
our poop. Yeah. Yep. So.
It appeared that every kayak had about 4 holes in it,
Mm-hmm.
2 for people, 2 for gear. With all the gear in there, did that help the lower center of gravity to make them more stable?
Yeah, the stability with all the gear in really did stabilize it. It's amazing how well actually. Pat and I, one part of our group gear was that big MSR tent fly that when it's wet is like thunk. You put that down in the hole, that isn't going anywhere. That thing weighed a ton. And yeah, it was, you felt, you could feel it as you paddle, how stable and secure it is, because yeah, again, that's new to me, so quite fun. Anybody else?
What was the bug situation like?
Bugs, they're actually quite fine. I didn't put any bug spray on. I might have brought a head net, I don't recall. Maybe used it once, but no, not that was like, okay, if we got rain, at least we didn't have the bugs. Anybody else?
you have to bring a lot of gear? I would imagine brown boots, so if you can all supply those or.
Yeah, did we have to bring gear? They issued us the brown rubber boots. And so you could, anything you didn't already own, you could have rented or bought from their outfitting store. So you could just show up in with your clothes and that's it. I brought pretty much everything. I don't have any, I didn't have any of the paddling jacket pants things, so I had to rent those. And that was pretty much it. You know, I brought my own sleeping bag, rain gear, change of clothes, pad. But you could have rented all that gear. They give you dry bags to put stuff in the kayaks. So you didn't have to bring those.
You can leave your valuables.
Yeah, valuables, change of clothes. They've you leave it behind and they've got a locker that they lock it up in, and it's basically by, you know, a walk-in locker in each course. All your stuff goes in there, so nobody will come and go through anything while you're gone. The thing I wished I would have brought was a digital camera, like a cheap digital camera. I was a little afraid of taking pictures with my phone because if you drop it, it's going into the ocean. And, you know, it's like, okay, then how do I get to my Airbnb because I can't get an Uber? You know, all your whole world now exists on your phone. So I would have liked to have been able to just put that away and not think about it, and then just have, you know, a camera. And if you drop that, well, big deal. So, but, you know, hopefully I don't lose these pictures now like I did from my trip 30 years ago. We'll see.
Other than the water taxis, did you ever see any other boats?
No. Well, did we see other boats? After about a day and a half, no. We like, for all you know, you're the last people on Earth. You know, you're just out there. There's, as I said, there's no sign anyone's ever been there before, which is really just different. You know, it's a different feeling. Yeah.
So they provided the food, but was that group cooking?
Food, yeah. It was group cooking. On a traditional NOLS course, they'll break you down into a group of four, and you're, you know, you guys, the four of you cook together. Here it was all group cooking, and the instructors kind of did most of it with other people helping it. You know, they were the ones in charge. So unlike a traditional NOLS course, they you know, they just do some things to streamline that. But yeah, big communal meals. You know, the food was really good. So hot sauce was excellent. There's my contact information. If somebody thinks of something you want to chat about or whatever, just feel free to email me or, you know, whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for watching this Minnesota Rovers presentation. If you want to see more, please click on the link to our channel or the subscribe button below. Thank you.